This is Dharma Drops with your host, Rebecca Warfield. This podcast is a little bit about yoga, a little bit about life, and a little bit about whatever. And just as a warning, this podcast is unscripted, so that means I might regret a few things that I say. But hey, maybe I'll say some pretty awesome stuff too. Remember, these are musings, not truths. Buckle up, giddy up, because here we go. Hello? Are you there? It's me, Rebecca Warfield, your host of Dharma Drops podcast, and this is your Dharma mini drop episode for Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. Now, the mini drop episodes come out every Wednesday, but the last two Wednesdays have actually had guests. So 2 weeks ago, Pam Butts came on to talk about preventative health and Chinese medicine, and then last week, Sweet Noel Whittington recorded a guided meditation for the Dharma Drops community. So it's been a hot minute since it's just been you and me, but I'm so happy that we get to spend a little QT, some quality time together. I hope that this episode finds you healthy and well during the coronavirus pandemic and beyond whenever you're listening to this. I've had a lot of people tell me they're a little behind on Dharma D because they're used to listening to and from work and everyone's staying home right now. So, hey, I don't know, maybe you're listening to this in the year 2025. I hope you are doing well in the year 2025 too. I kind of feel like it's been such a long time, actually, since I've recorded something because, the last 2 weeks, the mini episodes were different. And the episodes, other than the episode with Swan Michelle, the episodes I've been putting out on Fridays or every other Friday, the full-length episodes, I recorded those a long time ago. So you ever go on vacation and you come back to your job and you have no fucking clue how to do your job, even though you've been doing it for like 2 decades? That's how I feel right now. I have no idea what I do. And I feel extra disheveled because I just could not teach yoga in my living room anymore on the godforsaken carpet. So Aaron and I completely rearranged our house over the weekend. We took his 200-pound deadlift platform and moved it out of one room into another, and then took all the furniture out of that room, put it into my office. So not only is the world just totally crazy right now and feels disheveled, but behind me, I also have a bunch of shit boxed up and stacked up that belongs somewhere else. So I feel a little crazy, but hey, that's not different than any other day, right? So let's go ahead and get started with a couple of announcements, and then I will get right into this episode, which is about practicing or taking online yoga classes. So it's a new thing that's happening. Well, technically it's not new, but it's new for the entire yoga world to be practicing online. So we'll get to talking about that in a few minutes. But first, just a little heads up about things happening around Dharma Drops podcast. I'm really excited to announce that there are new classes on the Dharma Drops live stream studio. So you can take Intro to Ballet with Rachel on Tuesdays from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the times are Eastern Standard on Dharma Drops because we are running here in North Carolina. I'm really excited for my new class on Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Yoga for All. I just finished my Yoga for All certification with Diane Bondi and Amber Carnes, and I'm really excited to put what I learned into practice on the Dharma Drops virtual studio. So Yoga for All is designed for yogis of all body types, particularly those in non-traditional, quote, yoga bodies. So the Yoga for All class will explore options to make the practice accessible no matter what size or ability that you come to class with. All are welcome. And so this class is a great option for folks who may not feel comfortable joining a, quote, traditional yoga class, but want to experience the benefits of yoga. So you can join me, Rebecca Warfield, on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on the Dharma Drops virtual studio for Yoga for All. And then on Thursdays, Rachel Taylor is also offering bar fitness, and that is from 5:45 p.m. to 6:45 p.m. So there's something for everyone. And I know most of what we talk about around here on Dharma Drops is yoga stuff, but there is some dance stuff because if you've listened to the podcast long enough, you know that two of the main loves of my life are dance and yoga. So you'll see a little bit of both around the Dharma Drop studio. So that's what's happening in the virtual live stream studio. Don't forget there are also on-demand classes, and I add new on-demand classes every week to the virtual studio. So you can get all that information at dharmadropspodcast.com. You'll see where it says virtual studio, just hover and there'll be some options for live stream or on demand. I've been having a really good time making the on-demand classes. So I hope you check them out. So your first 7 days is free. And then after that, it's only $9.99 a month for unlimited access. So check it out. Again, that's at dharmadropspodcast.com. In terms of what's happening around the blog, all kinds of stuff. I just finished editing. I haven't published it yet, but it will be live probably before this episode is live. A new article, 6 affordable natural cleaning products. So you can check that out. Last week, I posted an article about 5 natural deodorants, which I need bad. I ran out. Luckily, I think mine will be here today because no one wants to be around me because I stank. But you can check out the deodorant article on Dharma Drops podcast. And then, of course, Tanya Nagel published a cool feel-good article that you can check out. And the feel-good articles are just things for us to think about that are not coronavirus related. Just things that are fun and sweet to do in our lives. And on top of that, Kristen Nice also published an article about tips for working from home, some best practices. So there's a lot of things happening on the blog now and more stuff coming on the way this week. So the best thing you can do is check in with dharmadropspodcast.com on the reg. And if you're into the blogs, if you go to the blog, just one article, whichever one you're reading, scroll to the bottom, you can subscribe and get the blogs right to your email inbox. And the last little update too, I am still working on getting yoga with boobs together. In case you haven't heard, I am putting together a series really inspired by Yoga for All that makes the practice accessible for women with large breasts, or something that I didn't even think about that someone reached out to me in relationship to this offering is even women who are pregnant who might have large or sore breasts, or women who are nursing and might have sore breasts too. Because look, the yoga practice, it ain't made for women with boobs, but we're about to make it for women with boobs. So more about that will be coming soon. If you'd like to be in the know about yoga with boobs and be the first to register, make sure that you sign up for the email updates at dharmadropspodcast.com/yoga with boobs. Yep, that's right. You heard it right here on Dharma Drops Podcast, yoga with boobs. So that's it for today's updates. Let's go ahead and get right into the heart of the episode, which is something that I really love, and tips for taking online yoga classes. So there's a lot of things circulating right now about teaching online yoga classes, but no one's really talking about the difference between taking a yoga class in a studio and taking a yoga class online. I've been practicing with online teachers for years now. I love an online practice, and you've probably heard me say many times on Dharma Drops podcast, I also love my home yoga practice. So I have a lot to say about this. I'm going to try and keep it mini episode length, but who knows? I can say a lot of things. This could be a 3-hour episode before we even know it. So I have a list of tips here that I want to share about you that can help you get the most out of taking an online yoga class. And these are not listed in any particular order. I just jotted them down, like whatever came to my mind first. So not one is heavier than the other, or not one is more important than the other. These are just some things that we can think about to get the most out of taking yoga classes online. So number one, I kind of talked about this a little bit in an earlier episode about your home yoga practice. Really make sure that you have the props and support that you need. We go to yoga studios in a normal day, a non-pandemic day, and often they have all the props that we need, all these fancy things and bolsters and meditation seats and blocks and straps and wedges and all the things, that our little hearts could ever desire for our yoga practice. Then we come home and we're like, cool, I have this shitty yoga mat and nothing else. So when we practice yoga online, or at home just in general, we really need to make sure that we are supporting ourselves through yoga props and these teaching tools. And as I mentioned, I talked about this in an earlier episode, so it might be of best interest for you to head over to that episode. It was just a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, making the most out of your home yoga practice. You can listen to that for the full information, but just in short, I would recommend having a bolster or a couch cushion, particularly a couch cushion that is supportive, not terribly squishy. If you don't have that, that's cool. You can stack up some towels or blankets. Speaking of blankets, you will need a couple of blankets. Yoga blankets are great because they fold nicely and are smooth, but any blankets will do, or a stack of towels. Blocks, I recommend having 2 foam blocks and 2 cork blocks in your yoga practice because they serve different purposes. But if you don't have blocks, No problemo. Just grab a stack of sturdy books. A strap is probably necessary for your home yoga practice. If you don't have that, a dog leash works really well for a strap. The tie to your robe works really well, or a scarf. So just make sure that you are setting yourself up for success, just because we're used to having all these things in the studio and now maybe we don't have them. The other thing I'd recommend is set yourself up by a wall or in a corner, so that way at any time that you need the wall or a corner for balance or to practice a at the wall posture, you're there. So find a spot in your house where you actually can access the wall easily. And these are good tips no matter what, whether you're practicing online or if you're just guiding your own practice. It's good to just have our props ready to go. And sometimes you'll need them, sometimes you won't. Just have them so that way if you need them, they are there for you. Now, you might be wondering what's best, live stream or an on-demand service. That's your choice. But one thing that I would recommend is selecting a platform or a group of teachers that have a variety of offerings. Because when we practice at a yoga studio, most yoga studios have a lot of different types of yoga. They have vinyasa, restorative, yin, deep stretch, gentle yoga, right? All sorts of different types of classes that we take. And even though we might be, or we might have a tendency to gravitate toward one type of class, often we do take other types of classes to keep our bodies and the energy balanced. So if you're out there looking for online classes, it's important to make sure that whoever you're practicing with or whatever studio that you're looking at, that they have a variety of offerings so you can meet your needs on any given day. And I will say right now, because of the coronavirus pandemic, I do feel like the highs feel a little higher and the lows feel a little lower than normal. So for me, it's actually been more important to really pay attention to what type of practice my body needs. On most normal days, no pandemic, I usually go to a pretty vigorous vinyasa class, but I've actually been gravitating toward a lot more gentle work lately. So just make sure that whatever online platform you're using has a lot of choices for you. And if not, that's fine. Just find another one that does have what you're looking for. I said it before on the show recently, one of the best parts about practicing online right now is we get to practice with all these teachers from all over the world. So at minimum, just piecemeal the practice together to really meet your needs. Okay, so make sure you have the props and select a platform that has varying types of classes. Number 3 that I have written down, I'm actually surprised this wasn't the first thing that I jotted down, because I think this is the most important part about a home practice and practicing online yoga classes. Be disciplined. It is so easy in your home practice and an online class to not really do what the teacher says, because no one can see you. So you have to be really disciplined when you're practicing with online classes. Number 1, show up to your mat. If you say to yourself when you wake up, I'm going to practice yoga today, be disciplined and practice yoga today. But that also means that do the class full out. People have joked with me in the past because they've heard me talk on the podcast about taking a lot of classes online, and they've said things like, oh man, I usually just stop it halfway through and lay on my mat. No, that's not how it works. Be disciplined. Practice as if the teacher is there and is watching you. Practice as if that online teacher is speaking to you and can see the moves that you make. Listen to their cues and do what they say. I'm not saying you can't modify. Of course, you can modify or take other options. But if you are just doing your own yoga practice and you're not listening to anything that the online teacher is saying, just don't do online classes. And this is partially, you'll get more out of the class. When we practice online, we can learn just as much as we do in an in-person class. However, if you're not actually doing the work, you're not actually learning what the teacher is saying. So be really disciplined and do the practice. And this is where it comes back into making sure that you're taking the right class for you on that day. You know, if you turn on an online yoga class and it's, I don't know, power level 2 or something like that, but really what you need is yin, you're not going to really stick with that power class. But if you listen to what you need and you honor what the body needs, you'll be able to find that discipline to stick with your practice. One cool thing about practicing online is that you can pause when you want a little more time to explore. So often in yoga classes, whether they're in real life or online, postures that are more challenging for me, say arm balances, inversions, those sorts of things, I sometimes need a little more time to work on them. And that's what's really cool about taking an online yoga class is that if you do need more time to work on something, you can. In a real life class, you just have to keep going with the flow and move along with the teacher. But you can hit pause and work on postures that maybe you need a little more time with. And I think this actually goes back to being disciplined, that you're doing the class and you're seeing the benefit of what the teacher is teaching and you're taking the time to actually integrate it into your practice. So that's a nice option if you ask me to pause and explore. And look, you can pause in Shavasana and lay there as long as you want too. That's a really great part. No one's there to wake you up. So don't be afraid to stop your class online and look and try to workshop it a little more in your own body. Now, I know that's hard with live stream classes. You can't really do that. So this might be something that's more geared toward an on-demand yoga class. Another thing that I really like is that you can explore not using music in your yoga practice. I love music and I like to practice with music. It's super fun and I get dancy and I bebop and I sing, and the entire time that I'm doing that, I am not in my practice. I'm bebopping and singing, right? I'm not actually in my body. I'm not actually with my breath. And vinyasa with music, it's a good time, but it's also a really great opportunity right now to turn the music off and see what it's like just to be with your breath and just to be with your body. I'm not saying you can't bring your music back. You can turn it on if you really hate it. That's totally fine. But this is a really great opportunity for you to learn more about your body and your breath because it's just you and your yoga mat right now. So turn off the music, see what it's like to just listen to the teacher, to just be with your breath and just be in the practice. Personally, I haven't practiced with music in years unless I'm in a studio that's playing music. I very much prefer to teach without music, and I very much prefer to practice without music. And I do believe that when we can get more comfortable with ourselves and with our breath, that practicing without music has a major impact on the practice and in our lives. But it takes some time to get there, and now is a really good time to explore it. A lot of these ideas that I'm sharing, actually, these aren't just things that you need to think about. I shouldn't say need, that you could think about when it comes to taking online classes. This is stuff you can think about in your practice at all times. And one thing that I like to remind myself is that your yoga practice does not have to be an hour. It does not have to be 75 minutes. It does not need to be 90 minutes. Your yoga practice can be as long as you need it to be, whether that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, your choice, right? Whatever works for you, whatever works for your schedule. And what's really cool about taking online yoga classes is that you can pick classes that have shorter durations. There are very few yoga studios that offer 15-minute yoga classes. And I mean, personally, I've never seen a single yoga studio that's offered 15-minute yoga classes. But one thing that I do think that online yoga can give us is the chance for the practice to really meet us where we are in terms of time. So you can hop onto websites and virtual studios and take classes that are 5 minutes long if that's all you have. Or you can do a meditation that's 3 minutes long if that's all you have. And it really helps get the practice in. So honor the amount of time that you have and honor what really feels best in the body in terms of how long you want to practice. For some people, an hour vinyasa is too long, but real life studios in a normal day pre-pandemic maybe don't offer classes that are shorter than an hour. And now's a chance to really explore what feels best in the body in terms of duration of your practice. So experiment, take a couple 30-minute classes. There's a couple 45-minute classes that I've taken that rock my world. It's just long enough to really feel like I get into full yoga practice, but short enough for me to make it manageable. So just try it out and see what it's like. And then my last one for today, I'm going kind of fast because I'm trying to honor the mini drop episode, trying to keep it, between 15 and 20 minutes. And I'm already at 20. My last one for the day, my last tip about practicing or taking online yoga classes is if you are doing on-demand classes, one of the best benefits you can get from that is you can take the class over and over and over. Maybe you're practicing Ashtanga in your regular life and you do the same sequence every single day. Right? That's definitely a possibility. But for most people, when they go to yoga studios, if they're not practicing these more traditional forms, they go to a yoga studio and the class is different every single time. When we take on-demand yoga classes, we can take the same class over and over and over, giving ourselves the chance to really integrate that sequence and those postures in our body. Because one thing that no one's doing anything wrong, but one thing that drives me nuts sometimes is I'll take a yoga class, the teacher will introduce this posture that I'm like, whoa, this is brand new to me. I want to learn more about that. And then we don't do it again for 6 months, right? And I never really get to try it again. But with an on-demand yoga class, you can practice it as much as you want. And this is, I think, a really great tool because when we do something, as we know as yogis, I think, when we do something over and over and over again, we deepen into that experience and we understand it so much more than if we just do that once every few months. So it's a great tip, I think, to take an on-demand yoga class a number of times and really experience the benefit of that practice and of that sequence by doing it over and over and over again. Okay, so let's just recap really quickly. Make sure that you have the props that you need. Select an online platform that has varying types of classes or piecemeal teachers together to make sure that you have the right classes that you need based upon each day. Be disciplined in your practice. Show up and do the work. Practice as if that teacher is there. Pause when you need to explore. I recommend trying to practice without music. Take classes that are as long as your body needs, no matter how short or how long that is. And take the same class a few times. And I really do believe that if we follow these tips, your home practice with the guidance of an online yoga teacher can be really powerful. I have learned so much from practicing online and just experimenting in my own home yoga practice over the last few years. So even though I know it's a little disappointing to not be with our studio communities right now, I think this is a great opportunity for us to dive into the practice, to meet new teachers, to try new things, and to test our discipline. I would love to hear what tips you have for practicing or taking online yoga classes. If you have ideas, hit me up on Facebook or Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Dharma Drops Podcast, and on Facebook, it's Dharma Drops. Share your ideas with me, and then I can pass them along to the rest of the Dharma Drops community, because even though we are at our homes, or in our homes, I should say, practicing yoga online, maybe by ourselves, we are actually still practicing together. When you take an online yoga class, you're not the only one taking that class. There are people all over the place taking that class. Maybe there are people in a live stream class with you, or maybe it's someone who's just taking an on-demand class that you recently took. But now you've experienced that class together, even if you don't know each other, even if you never meet, you have that common experience with someone else. So we're not alone in this. We're not alone in the yoga practice. We're not alone on this earth. So with that in mind, we can connect through the yoga practice. And if you have ideas about how to continue developing and growing through online yoga classes, let's continue to connect with each other and share ideas. Again, you can send me your ideas at Dharma Drops Podcast on Instagram or Facebook, Dharma Drops. Okay, my friends, that was a lot for 25 minutes. I hope that you were able to get a little bit of information here that can help you make the most out of practicing yoga online. Again, if you have any thoughts, make sure to share them with me. As always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Dharma Drops Podcast on whatever app you're listening on. And I'm going to see you Friday in a full-length episode. All right, friends. Until we meet again next time. Bye.